right, that's a wrap. The first week of preseason is officially in the books for the New York Jets. They lose to the Bucs 24-16. However, there were some bright spots, man. There were some bright spots. Let's start with Cade Klubnik. I felt like Cade looked awesome tonight. All things considered, 5 of 7, 56 passing yards. He was out there for 2 drives, one of which was a 12-play, 65-yard drive that lasted over 6 minutes. The other one, only 4 plays, kind of capped off by the long Braylon Allen touchdown run. By the way, I feel like he looks good to go, healthy coming off the injury. Of course, against Bucs backups, looking at everything objectively here, but still a good sign to see from Braylon. Regardless, Cade looked calm. Cade looked comfortable. I felt like when the news came out before the game, it came out like an hour before the game, Geno Smith experiencing the foot soreness. Okay, it's not something super serious. If it was a regular season game, Geno would have played. But the first thought I had was, okay, great, Cade is going to be out there starting with the ones. Why is that relevant? Because he hasn't really practiced with the ones all that much, right? Garrett Wilson throwing behind this offensive line, handing the ball off to Breece Hall. And we saw a couple, I don't even want to call them rookie moments, but just like some interesting little it's not super smooth, right? Like that one kind of toss, handoff. It was kind of a strange situation where Cade, of course, was lined up in the shotgun. He goes to almost hand the ball off to Breece Hall. Breece is expecting a toss, and then Cade is like, there's just kind of space in between them, so he decides to underhand the ball to Breece, and it's just a negative play. We had the incredible Garrett Wilson catch that he made, kind of an errant throw by Cade, but definitely put some zip on it. I think it's because those two guys haven't really built that chemistry up, right? There's also the moment in the red zone where Garrett Wilson was kind of pointing to himself after the play, almost looked like disappointed in himself. But just small little moments like that. Not only is it the first NFL action, not only is it, you're in your home stadium, you have all the jitters and everything, but Cade is like, okay, an hour before the game, I got to go out there, play and perform with a whole bunch of guys that I have not really practiced with on a consistent level. So to see Cade go back there, drop back, hit some passes, look calm, look comfortable, show off the arm strength, I felt like it was a huge win. And I'm happy for him, man. I really am. And I understand that he's kind of a feel-good story at the moment, right? He's been impressing in training camp, which is really cool. And the Jets are giving him this true opportunity to fully seize the backup quarterback position. And I think after tonight, it's the gap has been wedged even further between himself and Bailey Zappi here. But we think back to April, which is not too long ago, 3-4 months. People were ripping Cade. They were shredding the Jets, shredding Darren Muji, Aaron Glenn, Frank Reich. How could you do this? Cade is not a highly ranked quarterback on so-and-so's big board. This guy had an undraftable grade on Cade Klubnik. He was not in his top 10. How could you take this guy in round 4? Why would you trade up for Cade Klubnik? What are you thinking? You guys don't know anything. Cade was, he had a lot of starts. Why didn't he grow this and that? I'm pumped for him. Look, it's a preseason game. He was only out there for 2 drives. By the way, there were a lot of maybe Jets fans tonight, and I actually heard from a couple that voiced their displeasure with only seeing Cade for 2 drives. And, in the moment, that kind of hit me too. I'm like, oh, I want to see Cade for, for at least 1 or 2 more. That'd be really cool, right? Continue building. But then I was like, you know what? Like reality kind of snapped back, putting myself in Aaron Glenn's shoes for a second. I'm like, okay, you know what? If Geno is having the sore foot, or whatever that exact diagnosis is. Again, it doesn't really sound too serious, but still, it's serious enough for him to miss the preseason game. I understand it if Glenn is just like, hey, you know what? Cade impressed. Let's build off the performance. There's going to be a couple more preseason games. Last thing we want is to be going to bed tonight knowing that Geno Smith was not good enough to play and then Cade Klubnik got hurt after an impressive performance. We don't want to see that. So when I took a step back, I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. There's going to be more reps. There's going to be more practices. There's going to be more preseason games. Let's give Cade some opportunities down the road. We don't need to rush things here, especially with the news of Geno Smith. So overall, I'm freaking pumped for Cade, man. Let's go, dude. Let's freaking go. Congrats, man. Congrats. Now, looking at the first team defense, I felt like they were fantastic, but they should have been. They were going up against the Buccaneers backups. So when the Bucs backups rolled out there, and I'm looking at the Jets defensive line with David Bailey and co. Will McDonough. I'm thinking, Micah Fitzpatrick back there, Demario Davis. hyping up the Jets with his pregame speech, I'm thinking we better get a 3-and-out here. I want to see a 3. I don't care if it's preseason vanilla call. We need to see a 3-and-out here, and that's exactly what happened, right? 3 plays, -3 yards or something like that, with a Will McDonald sack, straight bull rushing the guy backwards, which was great to see. David Bailey, I felt like he was pretty effective against the quarterback, despite the Bucs throwing some double teams his way. Noticed that occasionally. So overall, just love what you see from David. Love what you see from, the first team defense, of course, but, it was expected here. I think overall, the defense did a pretty good job, all things considered, right? Understanding the Bailey Zappi pick 6. So bam, that's 7 points right there for Tampa. And then, of course, the other interception. So the defense was on the field maybe a little bit longer than expected tonight. And I felt like they held their own up until that last drive. What was it? It was like a 16 play. It was a long drive with it felt like it was like the entirety of the middle chunk of the fourth quarter was just controlled by Tampa. 60 plus yard drive that resulted in a touchdown run, which kind of just, broke the game open. But again, outside of that, I felt like the defense, for the most part, held their own. Now, 2 major standouts for me on the defensive side of the football. The first, Mory Bamba, undrafted corner from BYU. What a freaking debut. I counted 4 passes defended against with a broken up touchdown, by the way. And initially, he allowed some space, right? He was in press on the goal line, allowed that space on an in-breaking route, and recovered really nicely, got his hands in there and jarred the ball loose. Ball was thrown a little bit behind the wide receiver, but dude, what a heads-up freaking play by Mory, man. Great play, great night for him. You think about that signing initially, his calling card was athleticism. It was his physique. It was the physical aspect of the game. He is tall, 6'2". He is long, fast. But there were issues with polish, with technique, with a lack of starts. One of the major issues with Mory was he was considered a raw prospect, but had a lot of upside if he gets in with a coaching staff. And I remember talking about this in the undrafted free agent breakdown video, whenever that was, May 1st, April 30th, right after the draft. The Jets were an interesting landing spot for him because a former NFL DB is the head coach in Aaron Glenn. So very excited for Bamba stepping up, right? Stiggers is in the concussion protocol. Nashawn Wright didn't play. Pump for Mory. The other standout performer, Jordan Clark, Ryan Clark's son. This guy was just making plays left and right. When you want to talk about toughness, physicality, effort, attitude, and sticking your nose to the football, Jordan Clark was great tonight, man. He was really impressive. I don't know when they're exactly going to be releasing the All-22 film from tonight, but if you have the opportunity and some time, I highly recommend watching 33. He was all over the place. Making plays up close to the line of scrimmage. I mean, and by the way, he's a convert, so he's corner now, can play in the nickel. If the Jets desperate, if they want to move him over to safety, they can definitely do that. That's where he was back at Notre Dame. Again, when the Jets initially scooped him up, not this season, but the season prior, Jordan Clark had a phenomenal game tonight. Phenomenal. What was it? 6-7 tackles, somewhere in that range. Great night for Jordan. Let's talk about the special teams. Okay, Cade York, Jason Sanders, they're going back and forth. How do those guys do? They were impressive. They hit all their kicks, right? Cade York had that 27-yard field goal. Okay, kind of a chip shot. Comes back with the, a 30-plus, 35-yard plus, 38, 39, somewhere in that range. Jason Sanders comes back in the second half, hits one from, I believe it was 47, 46, 49 maybe, somewhere in that range. Kickers were great. Kickers were great tonight. I liked how they rolled Cade York out there to start, though. So maybe it's a little tell on the battle there between the two. Maybe Cade is, leading the charge there. But yeah, anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What were some of your major takeaways? Who were your stand-up performers? And yeah, I'll be back tomorrow morning with another video. So I'll catch you guys then. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.